let us do paper review. We are looking at what is happening in Nigeria with special reference to Nigerian Daily. With me this morning is the Vanguard newspaper. So let us quickly take a look at what is on the page of Vanguard newspaper. Thereafter, we shall do an in-depth analysis of some of the major headlines. Okay, let us start from here. It's saying federal government deficit spending rises 28% to 12.1%. See another one here saying, talking about the budget, saying budget 2025. How federal government plan to spend 6.743 trillion naira service-wide votes. You understand that service-wide vote is like a contingency vote. It's like a vote that is not tied to any project, like miscellaneous. Let us look at online version of Vanguard from what we have here. It's a Tinubu's family refusal to honor Sheik's pact with us disappointing. That is coming from Nnamdi's family. Then going further, is saying that the family of the detained leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Mazi Nnamdi, have expressed disappointment over the failure of the president Ahmed Bola Tinubu to honor an alleged agreement between his son Sheyi and the family before the 2023 general election. Going further, it says that Kanu's younger brother, Prince Emmanuel Kalu, in a statement claimed that Sheyi, with his approval of his father, personally met with him in Abuja shortly before the election, where both parties entered into agreement concerning Kanu. Then, if you see go further, it's saying that, according to him, it was agreed that IPO would not boycott the polls on the condition that Tinubu would release Kanu if elected president. Prince Emmanuel expressed disappointment that nearly 2 years after the emergence of Tinubu as president, his brother Kanu has continued to languish in detention despite the fact that the presiding judge, Justice Bita Anyako, had since recused herself from the matter. He go further to say that he said it was disappointing that those who claimed to be honorable failed to keep their words. The statement read, before the last election, I received a message from an ex-governor that she, the son of the president, Tinubu, wanted to see me. I agreed to meet with him on the condition that the overriding priority and hence the fulcrum of our discussion will be the release of my brother. The meeting was held in Abuja in the presence of another individual whom I asked along to witness the deliberations and, if need be, provide independent verification should the need arise. So he confirmed to me that his father sanctioned the meeting and that I should consider any agreement we reach as binding on the then candidate Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In good faith, we agree that I shall relay the outcome to my brother to reinforce the long-held tradition of IPOB not interfering with the conduct of elections, either through boycott or any other form, civil disobedience. This understanding was duly communicated to my brother, and he reaffirmed his commitment not to stop the election or order any boycott. When President Tinubu, the candidate of when President Tinubu as a candidate visited Owerri during his campaign, he too reiterated his commitment to facilitate the release of my brother if elected. We took his public statement as a tacit affirmation of the understanding I reached with his son. Haven't read this. Okay, if I still go further, he said at the end, IPOB did not call for election boycott, despite having the capacity to do so. IPOB also made sure that discordant voices urging election boycott were overcome because election boycotts would not reflect well on the reputation of a global movement that prides itself on adherence to democratic tenets. Now, I think the bottom line here has to do with the man, Nnamdi Kanu, his freedom, and what does that portend for the eastern part of the country and all of that. Before we dive into other areas, let us look at this critically because we understand that, yes, the man Nnamdi Kanu had been in detention since he was rearrested, or rather, he was extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. Because I understand that a court in Nigeria here, I'm talking about Court of Appeal, already ruled that Nnamdi Kanu was extraordinary rendition from Kenya to Nigeria. Of course, at the time the court gave the judgment, it asked that Nnamdi Kanu should be released unconditionally. Though federal government did not release him, they appealed the case, and the Supreme Court has asked that the case should go and start de novo, meaning that the case should start afresh. And Nnamdi Kanu himself has since asked Justice Bita Anyako to recuse herself from the case, which she have done, and since then, the case have not been reassigned to any other judge. But judging from right of self-determination, we understand that African Charter on Human and People's Rights is actually give right for people to talk about self-determination. Then equally looking at the United Nations Declaration on Human and People's Rights, equally give right to people for self-determination. So looking at these two angles, we understand that it is a right to talk about self-determination, so long as one is doing it within based on the law, one is not going about the true wanton destructions of life and property. Then again, looking at what shall constitute the primary purpose of governance, because looking at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, it tells us that the welfare of Nigerians and their security shall be the primary purpose of governance. To that extent, if what we have currently in the southeastern part of the country is a situation where peace have eluded the region, I think the best bet to guarantee the safety of life and property is to allow the man Nnamdi Kanu out of the hook, because almost every stakeholder has spoken in that regard, with the exception of the governor of Anambra State, who recently came with an assertion that the release of Nnamdi Kanu may not end insecurity in the eastern part of the country. Since he made that statement, he has been receiving criticism, because looking at almost all the stakeholders in the region, talking about the traditional rulers, talking about religious leaders, talking about politicians, everybody is on the view that the release of Nnamdi Kanu is a panacea for peace in the southeastern part of the country. Of course, we have the situation where the senators from the region, under the leadership of Senator Ina Baribe, met with the Attorney General of the Federation, drumming support for the release of the man Nnamdi Kanu. We have equally seen in recent time, American veterans of Igbo descent telling the telling the governors of the southeastern part of the country to synergize with the president and see how they could secure the release of Nnamdi Kanu. And that is not the only time. We equally saw UN giving admonition to Nigerian government to obey court order to release the man Nnamdi Kanu. We're equally seen, of course, minority caucus in the Federal House of Representatives advising the president to release the man Nnamdi Kanu. But I think the bottom line is, if the release of Nnamdi Kanu will engender peace, we end insecurity in the southern part of the country, we end the killing, I think it's something the federal government need to give a priority attention. Because just like I said earlier on, the welfare of Nigerians and their security shall be the primary purpose of governance. I think Section 14 of 1999 Constitution as amended says that. Then again, looking at what someone like Professor Woloshenka have consistently said about ideology of Biafra agitation, because he has said that Biafra is an ideology, and as such, it can only be addressed from the ideological point of view, meaning that the current strategy of federal government of arresting, prosecuting, hounding, perhaps intimidating, may not be yielding any result. Of course, we have seen in the recent past, even the arrest of Samanekpa have not even deterred agitators, saying that some persons are already struggling to take over some other position, because we are seeing someone like Dr. Ngozi Orabueze laying claim as to having the right to occupy that position. We have equally seen the I think secretary of that organization talking about the Biafra government in SI, talking about Ogen Kere, claiming that he is the right person to occupy that position. But I think the bottom line is, let the government provide a roundtable for conversation to address this age-long issue of agitation. I understand that, just like Obasanjo said in the past, that the Igbos, the Biafrans, were not the first to call for division of the country, judging from what happened in the past, where they not to call for Arab Armenian division. So I think if the people are dissatisfied with the way the country is being run, and they are coming under the platform through the angle of self-determination, which is a guaranteed right, I think the right thing to do as a people, as a government, is engage the people. And the best way to engage the people is to provide a roundtable for conversation. Because we have seen the other day where a Sunday Igboho, who of course we know is pushing for Oduduwa Republic, how he went to the United Kingdom with a letter to the office of the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, asking for self-determination of the Yorubas. We understand that the British Embassy here in Nigeria have since advised him to join hands with other Nigerians to move the country forward. But in spite of what the British Embassy is saying, the point is people have right of self-determination, and it should be addressed from that point of view. Then even the Britain that advised him to join hands with other Nigerians to move Nigeria forward, the other time had issue when they wanted to exit European Union. And of course, there were people who were against it. There were some people who were for it. But the important thing is that the minority had their way. Sorry, the minority had their say, and the majority had their way. And at the end of the day, I think they were able to attain that Brexit. And today, UK, United Kingdom, is no longer a member of European Union. In the same vein, if somebody is saying I'm dissatisfied with this status quo, or rather with this country called Nigeria, we have seen in the past the statement that came from Nnamdi Azikiwe, the one that came from Tafawa Balewa, the one that came from Awolowo. Of course, all of them expressing their view with respect to the point that they are not comfortable, that they are not sure that Nigeria is actually one, judging by the way and manner Nigerians see Nigeria. Then again, I think let us look at other areas, because currently federal government, we are now in 2025, and we are looking at events that will shape this year. And judging by what we have here, it's a budget 2025. How federal government plan to spend 6.743 trillion service-wide votes. The point is, all the spending that has to do with service-wide votes, right from inception of this national democracy, I don't think there have been justification, or rather the government actually tells us how the money is being expended. I understand that service-wide vote is like miscellaneous, and the government of Nigeria owns a responsibility to the citizens to, at every point in time, tell Nigerians how their commonwealth is being spent. Whether you call it service-wide vote, I think the people deserve to know how the money is being spent. Then looking at another thing here, talking about Pandev, Afenifere, yes, NMPP, others disagree with Tinubu's message. Talking about Tinubu's message of Tinubu message that has to do with the New Year message. I think the president said a whole lot of things, talking about how to reduce inflation from 34.6% to 15%. I think looking at that, Nigerians will begin to ask whether the government is ready to dive into serious production. I understand that currently Nigeria is a mono economy. We are not producing. Of course, that is one of the bane of our problem. But again, I think the president, if you want to address most of these issues we are seeing, the government should be courageous enough to visit, or rather to revisit, some of the policies that have since seen our economy on its knee, particularly the issue of unification of FS at the official window. Because personally, I have a view, I'm of the view that even if you remove subsidy on gasoline, which every stakeholder agreed to from the beginning, that was not the best time to actually unify FS at the official window, because even the medicals that the president promised to reduce the cost in the country, one is at a loss how that can be achieved under this regime of unification of FS at the official window. Because what that does is almost every raw material being imported for medicals in Nigeria is going to experience the same high rate of exchange rates. So, of course, we have seen so many companies in the medical industry leaving, and the reason is not far from the high exchange rates. We have seen GSK left recently, and if the president is saying he wants to reduce the cost of medicals in Nigeria, I think the best bet is to revisit that policy of unification of FS at the official window, because by the time you peg dollar at the official window, what it does is it now make importers of raw material for medicals to import it at a given and controlled rate. We understand that before Muhammad Buhari left office, dollar was pegged at the official window. I think dollar was exchanging for 471 naira to a dollar as at that time. But since the current government floated it, regulated it, currently dollar is exchanging for that window as much as, if it is, I think as much as 1,500. So you can imagine a product, or rather raw material, that hit at to before now for exchange rate of 400 and something naira to a dollar, and it's currently 1,500 naira a dollar. Certainly it's on the product, or rather the end product of the company, and that is the consequence of what we face currently. So for me, I think the government, or rather the president, should have the courage enough to revisit the policy and give it another priority attention as a way of driving down the cost of medicals in the country. Then again, I think we shift our attention to another area, talking about the facts, figures, betrays federal government performance claim. Okay, that is coming from Obi. I understand that the other day, Obi was even challenging the president to even travel on road to visit Nigerian hospitals as a way of leading from the front. Because we understand that though it didn't start from this government, we have always seen a situation where Nigerian government personalities, each time they take ill or even just routine medical checkup, the next thing is they jet out of the country for medical. We understand that the current president, or rather the immediate past president, was almost out of the country every time. And currently, Muhammad Buhari, every now and then, he was in the United Kingdom seeking medical attention. And the current president, Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, have followed suit. I think now his destination is France. Then the point is, Obi is challenging the current president that yes, to leave from front means travel through Nigerian roads to assess the level of road infrastructure when you take ill, not just when you take ill, visit Nigerian hospitals to assess the level of development in that sector. Of course, that is what it takes to be patriotic. That is what it takes to lead from the front. We understand that Obi is someone who have always canvassed for the government to stop borrowing for consumption, but rather that we should start borrowing for production. And Obi have not hidden his intention to do that if actually he finds himself in position of authority, talking about if he becomes the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But currently, he can only advise the government of the day. And I think the government of the day, as a matter of priority, must shift attention to how can we enhance production? How can we be productive? Because whether you like it or not, that's the best way to drive down the exchange rate. Because any other thing you do is cosmetic. But the that before now, the federal government of Nigeria have always borrowed, maybe through World Bank, to address dollar liquidity in the country. And that is cosmetic, because by the time you borrow to address exchange rate, the money you borrow will be injected into the economy. Once it gets exhausted, the whole trend, all the gains you recorded will start reversing. I think that is what we have been suffering all this while. Because even currently, we are seeing a situation where NNPC has borrowed like 2 or 3 times on behalf of federal government with entering into deal with crude. But the point is it sustainable? Obviously, it's not sustainable because the money we are borrowing injected into the economy, by the time it gets exhausted, then all the gains we recorded in terms of naira rising against dollar will start reversing. So the only thing that is sustainable is this: get your hands on into production, produce, export, and foreign exchange, then use it to meet your dollar obligations. Of course, that is the only way you can meet your dollar obligation that is sustainable. But I think I must say, very big thank you for your time. I think this is a good place to let it go. Until we come your way next time, I'm Mr. Matthew, and this is Setline Media. Thank you very much.